This is Tulika Banerjee from Forensic Science Unit, SGTP Khalsa College, University of Delhi, presenting this module on behalf of Ritu Sharma, Assistant Professor, Sanchi University of Buddhist Studies, Bhopal. I am delighted to present this lecture on sociological theories of crime, which is taught in BA first semester. Let us first make ourselves clear with the learning objectives of this lecture. This chapter focuses on sociological theories which do not assume that individuals who engage in criminal behavior represent a special class of abnormal or inferior people. Many sociological theories that have been developed to explain crime and delinquency are called social structural theories. Social structural theories focus on how society is structured and social and environmental factors that include both the general society and the impact of social and group factors on individual behavior. In some cases, criminal behavior may be a normal response to frustration, strain and tension generated by pressures and conflict within a society itself. In other cases, a criminal or delinquent may be conforming to the deviant norms of the subculture to which he or she has been socialized. Still other theories argue that crime and delinquency are an inevitable result of social and economic inequality and that the law is inherently biased toward the interest of the dominant or ruling groups of classes. This chapter begins our analysis of sociological theories with an examination of social structural theories of criminal behavior, including a review of social disorganization theory, an analysis of strain theories, an assessment of subcultural theories of delinquency, and lastly the conclusion. I hope that you all are clear with the general idea about the topic we are going to discuss in this lecture. The prime focus of social disorganization theory is the wide variety of environmental and urban conditions that affect crime rates. It also focuses on the development of high crime communities which are associated with the breakdown of conventional norms and values as a result of increased immigration, industrialization and urbanization. As a theoretical approach to the study of crime, social disorganization theory has its roots in the process of social change and is related to the fact that Indians live in a society characterized by heterogeneity, various value conflicts, many subcultures and rapid social change. Criminologists have observed that social disorganization sometimes results when people attempt to use traditional guidelines to cope with new social conditions and then experience frustration and confusion because the traditional rules are no longer effective or no longer apply. Social disorganization theory examines crime by analyzing the social disorganization that develops with social change. Let us now try to understand the relationship between social disorganization and social change. To better understand social disorganization and crime, one must first have a clear conception of what is meant by social organization. Social organization is the actual patterning and regulation of human social interaction, whereas social structure refers to the roles, statuses and institutions through which societies are organized. Much of what a criminologist terms social organization consists of social norms and expectations that guide human behavior. In all societies, people depend on one another for their survival and attainment of goals. People develop social organization to regulate their own conduct and the conduct of others, and they develop rules for the use of various resources to meet their needs. Reciprocal expectations are developed as people come to depend on one another. In other words, people learn what to expect from themselves and what to expect from others, and what others expect from them. In this way, people develop cultural traditions, customs, and complex systems of rules and regulations to guide them in their various actions and activities. Society's laws, which are codified rules of a culture, define which form of social behavior are acceptable and which are not. The customs, rules, and laws of the society embody social expectations and to an extent govern the behavior of society's members. In this manner, society becomes organized around behavior patterns that contribute to human survival, maintenance, and the fulfillment of socially and culturally prescribed values. When traditional social guidelines no longer work, or when there is a decline in group unity due to ineffective behavior patterns, social disorganization results. In every society, then, there exist standards of expected behavior, social norms that guide people in the roles they play. When these norms are functioning efficiently, they go largely unnoticed by most people living in the society. According to social disorganization theory, people internalize the social expectations and rules, facilitating the smooth operation of society. With social change, however, many of society's norms may no longer function effectively. Society may become disorganized when people's norms and laws are no longer appropriate for new social conditions, or when social cohesion or unity breaks down because of the ineffectiveness or institutionalized patterns of behavior. Dear students, I hope you all understand social disorganization theory and why it is important for criminologists to understand the relationship between social disorganization and social change. Our society places much emphasis on success. We are all taught to want to be successful in many aspects of our lives. The great majority of Americans want wealth and possessions such as nice clothing, cars, houses, jewelry, and other material comforts. They also want a good education, power, prestige, and status. American society also places great emphasis on the attainment of these goals for all Americans, regardless of their economic strata. However, because of their structural position in society, people in certain groups, such as those in the lower classes and in groups against which society discriminates, are not able to achieve these goals or symbols of success through the means available to them. The pressures and frustrations people in this situation experience are often so severe that they cause serious strain and lead to induce the people into deviant or criminal behavior. Strain theory focuses on the structure of society and the limited means of many Americans to achieve desired goals. In other words, strain theory sees crime and delinquency as a result of the anger and frustration people feel because of their inability to achieve the American dream. Thus, in this view, socially generated forces and pressures drive people to crime. These strains, as they are termed, are not evenly distributed in society but are most severe among the groups with the highest crime rates. Strain theory, then, is based on the breakdowns of social order that can result from unequal access to the means of success. One source of such a breakdown is referred to as anomie or normallessness. The famous sociologist Emile Durkheim was the first to develop the concept of anomie to explain increased rates of suicide produced by rapid social change in society. He used the phrase anomic suicide to refer to acts of self-destruction resulting from an abrupt breakdown of society's norms, which often occurs during periods of economic depression or political crisis. The next theory that we will be discussing in this section comes as Merton's means or ends theory. The sociologist Robert Merton modified and adapted Durkheim's abstract concept of anomie to explain forms of deviant behavior other than suicide, especially crime and delinquency. In 1965, Merton argued that anomie results from a lack of integration between culturally prescribed goals and the availability of legitimate or institutionalized means or norms for goal attainment. US society places a great deal of emphasis on the attainment of economic as well as material success. However, as a result of their structural positions within society, certain segments of the population such as the lower classes and certain ethnic and racial groups have limited opportunities for and are often denied access to the legitimate means to achieve this success, such as a good education or a good job. Members of these disadvantaged groups thus experience many pressures, frustrations and strains which are often severe enough to cause them to deviate from the legitimate goals and or means or norms of the society. Individuals who are restricted in or denied access to the use of these legitimate means tend to become anomic or alienated from American society. Thus, they have a greater tendency to engage in various types of deviant and criminal behavior. Merton presented 5 modes of adaptation in the use of means to attain goals, and for this reason, his model is sometimes referred to as the means or ends theory. 4 of these methods of adaptation, that is retreatism, rebellion, innovation and ritualism, occur when legitimate means to goal attainment are blocked. The 5th method of adaptation is conformity. A conformity results when the individual accepts both legitimate means and legitimate goals and is in a social position that allows access to both means and goals. Merton contended that much criminal behavior in society can be explained using his means or ends theory, also called his theory of anomie. He argued that offences such as property crime, robbery, drug selling and organized crime can all be viewed as forms of anomic response that results when conventional or legitimate means for goal attainment are blocked. Merton also argued that the higher crime rates that exist among particular groups in our society are simply symptomatic of a disjunction between culturally approved goals and opportunities to use culturally approved means to attain them. The aim of Merton's theory is to discover how some social structures exert a definite pressure on certain people to engage in nonconformist, including criminal behavior. The theory of anomie also provides important insights into the origins and nature of many types of criminal and deviant behavior. However, Merton's theory is much more useful for explaining crimes against property than crimes against persons, such as aggravated assault, forcible rape, and murder. Also, although this theory provides us with an explanation for crime committed by society's lower classes, it inadequately explains crimes committed by affluent people, who typically are neither deprived nor denied the use of legitimate means for goal attainment. Another interesting approach that we shall look now is Agnew's general strain theory. Robert Agnew has developed a new version of a strain theory called general strain theory or GST. GST focuses on individual level influences of strain and tries to understand why strained individuals are more likely than non-strained individuals to commit criminal or delinquent acts. Using sociological, psychological, and mental health research, Agnew has expanded on the various adaptations that a person may make in response to a strain in social environment. Agnew believes that many factors influence one's choice of criminal or non-criminal adaptations to strain, and he focuses on negative interpersonal relationships. GST describes relationships in which people are not treating an individual the way he or she wants to be treated. There are three major types of negative relationships that cause strain. First, other people prevent an individual from achieving positively valued goals. Second, other people remove or threaten to remove positively valued achievements or stimuli from the individual. Third, other people expose or threaten to expose the individual to negative or noxious stimuli. These three strains increase the probability that an individual will experience a range of negative emotions from fear and frustration to anger. The emotions the individual feels may then create pressures or tensions that require corrective action. Criminal behavior is one of the possible responses. Individuals who have little power to control or deal with negative stimuli experience more strain than those who have higher degrees of power. This strain increases the probability that individuals will experience various negative emotions. The emotions may then create pressures for corrective action, such as delinquent behavior. Anger, for example, may be especially conducive to delinquency, according to Agnew and his new associates, because it energizes the individual for action, lowers inhibition, and creates a desire for revenge. Delinquency may be used to reduce or escape from strain, example stealing money, running away from abusive parents, seek revenge against those who have inflicted the strain, example assault and vandalism, or reduce the negative feelings that result from strain, example illicit drug use. Agnew points out that only some strained individuals turn to delinquency and crime. This means that there must be conditioning factors that influence an individual's reaction to strain. Conditioning factors that Agnew identifies includes the following. First, the importance an individual attaches to threatened values, goals or identities. The individual's coping skills. Resources available to the individual such as money, self-esteem, social supports, level of social control and association with delinquent or no delinquent peers. The individual's access to alternative or sheltering values, goals and identities. Other coping resources available to the individual such as intelligence and problem solving skills. Conditioning factors constitute internal or external constraints that greatly influence individual responses to strain. For Agnew, then, criminal or delinquent behaviors are not inevitable outcomes of a strain. A strain produces only pressure toward crime and deviance. There are many ways people adapt to pressure. Some individuals accept responsibility for it, others downplay or ignore it. Still others become substance abusers, or they take revenge on those they feel may have caused their anger or strain. Various studies support general strain theory and report that exposure to strain increases delinquency. Angry and stressed individuals appear to be more likely than other people to interact with delinquent peers and to commit crime. Although much research has supported GST, some studies have had trouble explaining why some people are more likely than others to react to strain with criminal behavior. Students, in this module, we have covered the strain theory in detail. A thorough understanding of these theories is required, so please review these theories from time to time. Robert Merton's strain theory, which focuses on strains caused by differential access to societal goals and means, has been applied to explain lower class crime and urban gang delinquency. Subcultural theories, such as those developed by Albert Cohen and by Richard Cloward and Lloyd Olin, are based on similar assumptions. Subcultural theories focus on the nature and origins of criminal and delinquent groups within society and help to explain variations in rates of delinquency and crime in the United States. When criminologists write about subcultures, they are referring to the variety of subgroups in complex societies such as the United States that for the most part are similar to or share the general culture, but that also maintain some unique norms, patterns of expected behavior that distinguish them from the wider culture. For example, there is a wide variety of ethnic, religious and occupational subcultures in American society. The subcultural explanation of deviance stresses that some subcultures contain norms that deviate from and conflict with those of the general society. Conformity to subcultural norms therefore involves deviance from those of the society at large. In this sense, rates of crime and delinquency can be viewed simply as products of deviant subcultures. Subcultural theorists assume that individuals learn deviant or criminal behavior in association with others, and that variations in the rates of crime and delinquency reflect the existence of deviant subcultural norms that are learned, shared and perpetuated over time. Criminologists have reported on the existence of many types of criminal subcultures, such as those related to professional theft, racketeering, organized crime, prostitution and the selling of drugs. However, much criminological attention has been focused on analyzing the nature and origins of delinquent subcultures. It is within a delinquent subculture that young people, through participation and gradual absorption into group life, become socialized to a variety of norms, beliefs and skills necessary to the commission of delinquent acts. Our next section is based on lower class cultural theory. Subcultural theories, such as those of the researchers in the preceding section, focus on the role of ideas in causing criminal behavior. These theories may explore the sources of these ideas in general conditions, but they are characterized by the argument that it is the ideas themselves rather than the social conditions that directly cause criminal behavior. In contrast, the strain theories of Cohen and of Cloward and Olin both use the term subculture, but both locate the primary causes of criminal behavior directly in social conditions. There is a common thinking pattern that arises among delinquents, but the thinking patterns are not the cause of criminal behavior. In strain theories, both the thinking patterns and the criminal behaviors are caused by the same structural forces. Another theorist who maintained that ideas themselves rather than social conditions directly cause criminal behavior was Walter B. Miller. In his lower class cultural theory, he focused on gang delinquency and argued that the lower class has a separate identifiable culture distinct from the culture of the middle class. Many theorists explain crime and delinquency in terms of subcultural values that have emerged, developed, and been perpetuated from one generation to the next in lower class urban communities. For Walter B. Miller, however, the values of lower class culture produce crime because they are naturally in discord with middle class values. A young person who conforms to lower class values automatically becomes delinquent. Crime and delinquency are not based on the rejection of middle class values. Instead, they stem from lower class culture, which has and maintains its own value system, one that has evolved in response to living in urban slums. Thus, Miller disagreed with Cohen's contention that lower class delinquents care about middle class values and act out their stress and frustration in negativistic crime. Rather, a delinquent subculture stands independently from middle class culture and draws its ideas from low class ways of living. Support for Miller's perspective was found in Oscar Lewis' 1960s study of the culture of poverty. Lewis's perspective stresses the idea that the values of the poor are substantially different from the values of people in the mainstream of society. His purpose in developing this perspective was to form a conceptual model of a set of interrelated traits, poverty being the crucial one. There are, according to Lewis, 70 traits that characterize the culture of poverty. Examples are powerless feelings, unemployment, inability to defer gratification, lack of privacy, gregariousness, a predisposition to authoritarianism. Many of these traits inhibit the poor from adjusting to a success-oriented middle-class society and from having upward mobility in that society. Proponents of this viewpoint argue that the poor do not share the middle class abhorrence of consensual unions, sexual promiscuity, illegitimacy, and violence in interpersonal relations. From this perspective, the values of the poor reflect both a lack of desire to be a part of or to advance in society's social institutions and a desire to condone behavior regarded by the middle class as deviant. The culture of poverty concept summarizes a view of poverty that is shared by consensus theorists. The consensus approach believes a major cause of poverty is the ongoing creation by the poor of a consensus pattern at odds with the dominant culture, in which the poor adapt to poverty through illegal activities legitimated by their subculture. Contemporary social scientists have reacted negatively to the culture of poverty perspective, are called as situationalists. They believe that the patterns of behavior among the poor are simply a means of adapting to the environment, and they reject the point of view that the poor have a unique set of values. Students, let us now talk about the subculture of violence. The subculture of violence, a perspective developed by Marvin Wolfgang and Franco Ferracuti in the 1960s, has its root in Merton's theory of anomie and Sutherland's theory that criminal behavior is a learned behavior. The subculture of violence hypothesizes a subculture that condones violent behavior and claims that recourse to aggressive and violent behavior may be considered acceptable within certain groups, particularly lower class men, African Americans and Southerners. When such qualities as honor, courage and manhood are challenged by threats, insults or weapons, such views are greeted with skepticism today. According to Wolfgang and Ferracuti, violence is a learned form of adaptation to particular problematic life circumstances. Learning occurs in a subcultural environment that supports the advantages of violent behavior over other non-violent responses or forms of adaptation. The subculture of violence is basically a set of values, beliefs, attitudes and expectations that are supportive of using violence in various situations. Included in the subculture of violence is a person's willingness to be involved in violent behavior, expectation of violence from others and readiness to violently respond to others. To maintain one's image and status, one who is insulted or put down needs to respond quickly and aggressively. Disagreements are settled by fighting. In other words, subcultures of violence expect their members to be violent. Violence is considered necessary and legitimate. Violence is the norm. A person who is highly integrated into a subculture of violence is more likely than one who isn't to be violent in his or her responses toward others. Students, in this module, we had a detailed discussion about subcultural delinquency theories. I hope you all have enjoyed this session. Make sure you know about all the theories we have discussed in this chapter. You may want to review the lecture again so that you are clear with the basic idea of inception of these theories. It's time to end this module. This chapter covers several of the most important social structural theories of criminal behavior. Social disorganization theory focuses on the wide variety of environmental and urban conditions that affect crime rates. A firm foundation for this theory lies in the analysis of social organization and social disorganization. Strain theory argues that socially generated forces and pressures drive people to crime. Robert Agnew's general strain theory focuses on the negative relationships that an individual has with others. Agnew believes that many factors influence one's choice of criminal or non-criminal adaptations to strain. Subcultural delinquency theories also attempt to explain crime and delinquency. Subcultural delinquency theories also attempt to explain crime and delinquency. Albert Cohen's subcultural theory proposed that the delinquent subculture exists because it offers a solution to the status problems and frustrations that working class boys experience in their effort to achieve middle class success. Walter Miller's lower class cultural theory maintained that a delinquent subculture stands independently from middle class culture and draws its ideas from lower class ways of living. Dear students, this brings to an end of today's lecture on sociological theories of crime. I hope you all have understood the underlying concepts of this chapter. Do keep in mind what we discussed today. I will be back with one more lecture in this series. If you want to learn more and enhance your knowledge, you may log on to our website www.cec.nic.in for MCQ, quizzes, LORs, etc. Make sure you revise the modules frequently so that you master the topic well and take up the exercises. Thank you for your time today. I'll see you in the next lecture. Keep learning and goodbye.